A Barnesville woman, Kelly Jo Anderson, convicted of murdering a child, has been sentenced to 35 years in prison. She'll be eligible for parole in 23 years. For background on this story, here's our report from April 27th of 2020. 35-year-old Kelly Jo Anderson of Barnesville, Minnesota, has been charged with second-degree murder. According to the charge, on April 23rd, 2020, at 1001 9th Street Southeast in Barnesville, Kelly Jo Anderson did cause the death of a human being with intent to effect the death of that person or another, but without premeditation. According to court records, Anderson caused the death of a child in her and her husband's care they were set to adopt. Reading from the criminal complaint, quote, in part, on April 23, 2020, Clay County law enforcement was advised that a child had been presented at the Sanford Emergency Room as blue and lifeless with bruising to the head and face. The child had been brought into the ER by Kelly Jo Anderson. A detective spoke with Anderson, who advised as follows: the child is one she and her husband were set to adopt this summer. The child had a temperature of 99.8 this morning and didn't go to daycare. The child is currently teething, and she could see in his eyes he didn't feel well. The child self-injures himself, quote, that's a quote from Anderson, and described that he will throw himself around and not seem to feel pain. She gave the child a bath at 12:30 p.m. and he was throwing himself around in the bathtub, which is how he injured his mouth. The child also threw himself several times from the bath to the toilet. She also believed he may have had a seizure while in the bathtub or shortly after. She decided to take the child to the hospital because she was unsure whether he had a seizure or not. She described the child as babbling when put in the car seat to drive from their home in Barnesville to Sanford. The defendant is a nurse and described the child as babbling and having labored breathing during her transport. She pulled over when she got a couple blocks from the hospital because he was no longer babbling and she could no longer feel a pulse. She stated that she was going to start CPR and she noted a very faint pulse at that time. She then drove to the hospital where medical personnel assumed care of the child. Anderson stated that she did not see any of the marks on the child last night, meaning April 22nd, that were now visible on the child. The detective then spoke with a husband who advised as follows. He last saw the child at around 7:30 p.m. on April 22nd. He did not observe any injuries on the child at that time. He played with the kids for a while, then went back to work, woodworking in his shop. Kelly Jo Anderson became angry with him because she thought he should be paying more attention to the kids. The child normally has baths in the evening and doesn't like baths. The husband had recently taken over giving the child baths, as Anderson struggled with him during bathing time. The husband changed the child's diaper in the evening of April 22nd and didn't notice any injuries. Anderson did give the child a bath on the evening of April 22nd around 8 p.m., and the husband went to work around 8 or 8:30 p.m. on the morning of April 23rd. He was surprised that the child was home with the defendant, as he normally goes to daycare Monday through Thursday. The husband says, other than in the bathtub where the child will do what he described as an alligator roll, the child does not throw himself around. The child has never had a seizure. The husband and Anderson have had the child in their care since April 2019. The husband received a call on this date from Anderson saying she took the child to the ER because it may have had a seizure and his pulse was low, but he was responsive and currently with nurses being cared for. Moving ahead in the criminal complaint, it states, quote, the detective spoke with the treating physician who indicated the child was presented with an 82-degree body core temperature upon arrival at the hospital and had fixed dilated pupils, which would normally occur 10 minutes after death. The doctor stated that to reach the 82-degree temperature, the child would have been deceased for approximately 40 minutes. While at the hospital, the detective also took photographs of the child and observed the following injuries: a cut on the inside lip, numerous bruises on the child's back and side. There was a small bump on the back of the child's head and multiple marks and bruising to the child's face. The child also had a laceration and injury to his penis. The doctor indicated that he did not believe the injuries were consistent with the defendant's description. In speaking with the witnesses, the defendant was the only one with the child at the time he sustained his injuries. On April 24th, 2020, at approximately 6:20 a.m., law enforcement was advised that the child had died from his injuries. An autopsy was completed by the Ramsey medical examiner. The preliminary report indicates a number of injuries to the head, face, arms, legs, chest, back, hand, foot, and penis, as well as internal injuries. The preliminary cause of death was probable asphyxia associated with blunt force trauma to the head, body, and extremities, and manner of death was listed as homicide. I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNewZ.TV.